today we have an awesome panel of experts that all of us here actually have worked for years and years in financial markets, in banks on Wall Street, from around the world. And I'm very, very happy to have Angelo and Rod and Rohit join today, and to share their experiences and to really kind of give you their viewpoints and their understanding of the importance of customer experience and what are the best strategies that they're seeing being deployed, their ideas about how we all can create better customer experience. Because in the end of the day, it doesn't matter how cool of an app or a service you have, and how fast it is, but it's all about really caring and creating better customer experience and retaining those customers and making sure that that they love you. And with that, Angelo, let's start first, guys, by all introducing each other here. I'm going to start myself, then Angelo, then Rod, and Rohit. Myself, I'm Vasil Muadjov. I am the head of growth at MoEngage for US. I have been in a space of marketing and mobile engagement for many, many years now. And before that, I was a Gartner analyst. And before that, I had my own startups and worked on Wall Street and on the stock exchange and so on and so on. So, I also come with a little bit of that experience of what you need to do to keep your customers happy. Angelo, I'm going to start with you. If you can give us a short introduction about yourself, and not just what you guys just launched with Bella. Congratulations. This is going to be very, very exciting, a new banking experience for customers. But you've been before with Unique Credit, with Live Person. You guys had the whole launch of My Buddy Bank before. You've been around the block, so why don't we start with you?
Sure, Vasil. Thank you. Thank you very much also for having me today. So nice to meet you all. My name is Angelo. I'm in Los Angeles now. As Vasil said, we just launched actually the teasing phase, not the bank itself. The bank itself is going to be available in the US on November the 30th, and it's a new bank called Bella. And we have this crazy mission to inject love, beauty, and empathy into the banking industry, which is something totally uncommon. Before that, I spent my entire career always having fun, but in the traditional banking industry. I worked for UniCredit, which is one of the largest European banks, a great company, for 20 years. And in 2015-16, I designed a new concept, a new digital bank called Buddy Bank. That was the first conversational banking experience. So it was based on a conversational platform, and is serving, because it's fortunately still active and growing very well. Buddy Bank, BUDDY, so being a buddy, and we were serving the customer not only for financial needs but also for lifestyle needs and anything they would need. Like I lost my password, I need help, and Buddy Bank is there. Actually, I'm still a very happy customer. Then I joined Live Person, and with Live Person we are building and we are launching this new digital bank called Bella, and it's based on Live Person technology and AI, and it's going to be pretty cool.
Thank you, Angelo. Rod, you've been, again, I've known you for probably now close to 15 years, close to maybe,
maybe 25. Long
maybe.
time.
It's been a while, yeah. And we happen to be also neighbors and run into each other when we're walking our dogs. So, it's a small world, but tell us, what are you guys working on right now? Because it's really, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then also what you guys are working right now, which is very, very cool. And I'm not going to even try to explain it.
It's simple.
Yeah, I know.
I started life as a financial derivatives guy at Wells Fargo. Somehow ended up in technology, and through co-founding NPM which if you use Node or Node developers who do, they use my stuff every day. It got sold to Microsoft. I now ended up at Santander building out their identity platform. And we realized that banks uniquely have a trusted position as an entity that will protect your privacy. There's lots of companies that are out there aimed at monetizing your data. Banks are aimed at protecting your data, protecting your information. They may not always give you the best rate or give you the best deal, depending on the organization, but you can guarantee that they will not turn around and sell all your data online. That's not what they do. And so we wanted to take that and turn it into a way that banks could act as a trusted verifier for people. And we've created an initiative, the Digital Trust Protocol, that we've folded into OpenID, and the Digital Trust Initiative that we're working on with the IIF, or the Institute of International Finance, and about 72 other banks, to create a simple way that you can prove who you are. So that, for example, on Twitter, you could see that somebody, they may not have the blue check mark indicating that they're famous, but they will have a blue stamp indicating that they are a known person. They're real. They're not a troll. They're not a bot. You may not agree with them, but you can know that that's a real human being. We can do the same thing when it's being certain that you're wiring money to the right person, that that's a real invoice with real wire instructions, that the person calling you from a call center is a real human being representing that company and not a fraudster. We're hoping that we can use all of this to reduce money laundering, to reduce human trafficking, etc. So huge social benefit at the same time as adding something that helps people to protect their privacy.
Yeah, and to also really make it easier and faster for customers and the banks to make that connection between the
That's right.
systems and the user at the end of the day. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Rod. Rohit, you guys have been in the center of helping small and big companies with digital transformation for lending. Tell us a little bit more what you guys do at Biz2Credit, maybe, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so Biz2Credit as a company, we are 12 years old company. We are a fintech lender. We actually have marketplace lending business in US, Canada, Australia, and India. And we actually, facilitate a lot of lending to small and mid-sized businesses. 3 years back, we also found a new part of our business known as Biz2X, where we partner with banks like HSBC, Banco Popular, Citibank, and other clutch of other lenders in US and other countries, and where we help them to transform their digital lending strategies, including onboarding customers, digital KYC, KYB, and the ability to underwrite them. And I think last few months have been very interesting because we got a license to be a direct PPP lender also here in US. And we have done tens of thousands of loans, more than $1 billion in loans that we did. And I think what we are seeing is a tremendous amount of march towards digitization. We recently launched a PPP forgiveness platform in partnership with AICPA, the American Institute of CPAs here. And we are seeing that, how people are adopting digital and how digital identity and KYC and overall digital experiences are becoming extremely critical. And I think the post-COVID world is going to look very different from what the pre-COVID world was.
Yes. All right. By the way, I apologize. I forgot to turn off the share screen, so now everybody can see you guys a little bit more. Not just this little dot on the screen. So thank you for the intro, Rohit, and everybody else. So, guys, we chatted before. I chatted before with you before the call, one-on-one, kind of what are the different things we could be talking about. But why don't we start with what is right now the norm in terms of customer experience? And I think that there is a different norm when you talk about traditional big banks, and there is a new norm that is being brought by new digital players in a space like Bella, like Buddy Bank, like all this new fintech startups. why is there a difference, and what is the new norm that we got to deal with? And even before COVID, now it's even more important, but even before COVID, where are we standing right now? Who wants to start? Anybody? Rod? No?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a very interesting question. I think what we were seeing prior to the crisis was that the banks were interested in digitization, but they were still very slow. So even today, if you see, most of the banks don't have a digital application, and we have seen that happening during PPP crisis also, as banks are reporting their quarterly numbers. While their revenues have gone up, their margins have actually gone down because they had to deploy thousands and thousands of people to process their applications. I think we are seeing that happening in PPP forgiveness. There was a news item even today that Bank of America, as of yesterday, they haven't been able to activate their PPP forgiveness website even as of yesterday. So I think even a bank like Bank of America, which is among large banks, is one of the most tech-savvy banks and digitally savvy banks. They are having a lot of challenges, even to get things off the ground. So I think still most of the bank websites, if you see, when you go and click on them, they have decent amount of content. But when you want to apply for products online, it's still very basic forms. It's still something like, please fill out a form and we'll get back to you, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's still very different, and it's very mind-boggling to me that in 2020, end of 2020, we are talking about it. But at the other level, it's not, because as we work with more banks, the complexity really is in the back end. Their whole core banking platforms, their back office platforms are still so old and antiquated. They don't have APIs. They can't expose APIs. We are now working with some very large core banking platforms, and they're saying, like, we have been asking them, when will your APIs be ready? And they said, if we are lucky, 18 months, actually.
Yeah.
So which is actually very interesting, because most of the traditional core banking players have got massively impacted by COVID in the negative way, and most of the fintechs and truly digital players have got positively impacted during the COVID crisis. So it's a very different world that we are starting to live in. And my take on this is that actually this digital divide is going to increase even further. I think some banks are trying to get out of this whole mindset of trying to transform all of digital stuff by integrating into core banking. They're thinking of doing it outside of core banking platforms and doing it more in an agile atmosphere and a manner. But I think most of the banks still, I think they have good intentions, they're making the right noise, but on ground there's very little evidence still to show that they have taken any decent steps towards a more digital world, while the consumers and the businesses have totally shifted to digital during the COVID crisis, and most of them are not coming back to going back to a branch or like sitting in front of a relationship manager and trying to do business with them.
Yeah,
We've definitely seen a huge uptick in digital digital use and very significantly so. We're well positioned as an organization, so not all big banks are slow. Santander's been very quick. The platform has been really strong, and what we've been able to we're releasing, I don't know, let's say hundreds of APIs over the last since COVID, in addition to the hundreds that we already had in place. And those ones, though, haven't been the core to taking advantage of it. It's been just having the digital onboarding in place, having the digital customer support, having digital capability to authenticate customers. In my world, as head of digital, I want you to be to have an experience where if you're on holiday in a future environment, you've lost your phone, you're in a foreign country, I can still get you back online instantly.
Yeah, but Rod, I'm today a business customer of Santander, and I can tell, like the customer experience is like so it's like it's still
it depends on the country. It depends
Yeah.
on the country, and it depends on the capability. But I do know that, for example, if you're a business customer and you're using global payments, you'll be going through our new systems, and you'll find that you see a unified dashboard because of it, or you will soon have that available. Which country are you in? For the
US. in New York City.
Yes, US. Okay, yeah, it's getting tied in quickly, and what we're seeing through all of these things is a capability to really focus on the customers, but it is exactly that. I don't think they want to come back to the branch. In many cases, or there's a lot of people, they now want to be able to do everything digitally, which means that we have to be there in place to support them.
I mean,
Yep.
Angelo, you guys are basically, it sounds to me, just like with Body Bank and now with Bella, you guys are launching this because you think that there is a big shift in the market where it's all about being digital, and you're going after specific audience that is not really tied to, like, I'm actually ready to move from Bank of America after 29 years, but tell us why you guys are launching Bella. What is the big idea behind it?
I think that I don't want to talk about the experience itself or the app or the thing. I want to talk about the customer experience in a more holistic way. So I deeply believe that, to me, the best customer experience is when I need my bank and my bank is there. It could be Sunday morning, as Rod was saying, or it could be at night, or could be maybe I will need my bank once every 3 years, but that time I want my bank being there. And this is very difficult, like easy to say, but very difficult to have. So today, what we're doing, and also what we did with Body Bank. With Body Bank, basically we gave access to our customers that now like are 100,000 of customers. We started with 10, but now Body Bank is pretty big. And we gave them access 24/7 to human operators. And with automation, we will be able to scale that traffic. So I think is the most important piece of the customer experience is not if I can send money to you, Vasil, in 3 seconds, or if I can open my account in 1 minute or in 3 minutes. I don't think that's the value that the customer are looking for. The customer are looking for trust, empathy, that is something that is not there in the banking industry. There is a famous case of US Bank. They fired a customer support agent because she made an emotional decision helping a customer in need last Christmas. If you Google Emily James, US Bank, you find a lot of articles on it. I'm not criticizing US Bank, but also all the big banks are like this. They're following processes. By the way, we hired Emily Jane. Now she's working.
I was going to ask you.
We hired her. Sorry if we have US Bank people connected to that, but I think that it's not the digital piece. It's not the app that could be green, blue, or my card could work better than yours, or my KYC is faster. It's not that, but it's being there when you really need your bank. And if you need your bank and something that is happening is not completely in the process, we need to empower our agents to make decisions that are good for human beings. This is what I think. So exactly what Emily did. Emily basically gave to the customer $20 from her own money to help this customer pumping gas in his car to go back to his family because the car was not working. And $20 of her money, not of the cash of the bank. And so this is what we need in banking. We need to humanize that piece. And we can do it. Regulators are going to be happy if we manage risk and we match that with empathy. It's going to be a better banking for everyone, and it's not the digital piece. Then let me add another thing. I deeply believe that this COVID thing, that is a very bad thing and is very sad, forced banks to accelerate what they were planning to do in 10 years. So basically for the digitalization of this very hyper-regulated industry, COVID is going to be a positive stuff. Because this is gonna be, they are forced to do what they were doing. Like, okay, let's take time. So we saw already like operators working from home with sensitive data, all these kind of things. Like it was something that maybe would have taken like 3, 4, 5 years to be realized, and now we all need to do it. And so I think it's a very exciting moment for the banking industry right now, and I'm happy that big banks are doing very giant leaps towards the direction that is the only direction we can take now.
Your point about personalization is really powerful. Maybe I could. When I co-founded NPM, we were about to get money from the VCs. We didn't actually have a bank. So I called up a bunch of banks to see who would work with us. And Silicon Valley Bank, not my bank, they had a guy who said, great, where are you? We were using the VC's offices at the time. He said, I'll be right there. He was there within an hour. He actually came into the office. He sat with us. He shook our hands. He met with us. He walked us through the services they'd provide. They did a great job. As a business banking for a tiny VC startup, they did a great job. Why? Because he had the empathy to understand that I was a little in over my head, needed help, and needed to be able to do basic things. That kind of hands-on stuff is critical, and I think that's at Santander, our motto is trying to be simple, personal, and fair. And personal is almost more important to the customer, I think, because they, at least then I know I'm being treated as a person and taken care of, and there's respect and kindness around it, and understanding.
But do you guys think that the banks need to change the way customer, agents and tellers are being, their KPIs are basically set up and their OKRs? Because every single time, if I go to a bank, and frankly, I don't remember the last time I was in a bank branch or talked to a bank, other than I had a couple of big problems that were crazy. Every time they try to sell you something, it's not about how can I help you with something. It's like, oh, have you heard about our new credit card or something else? I mean, we need to change the way we think about this, because there is other options. I can go to Bella from now on in November. I can go to my buddy bank. I don't have to with Bank of America. I'm using TransferWise to send money back and forth to Europe at a fraction of the cost. I mean, we need to make other changes.
I think Vaso.
Angelo, please.
Sorry. I think that a very important piece here is that, let's talk about big banks, because the digital banks are like new players. They try to be rock and roll like ourselves. We try and we do our best to succeed. But let's talk about the big corporations for a second. Today, our banking experience for meaningful things that could be, I don't know, I need to buy a house. Maybe I buy a house once in my life or twice. I need to refinance my mortgage. I need to buy a car. I need a bank for something that is not paying for my coffee. That experience could be, actually today, could be a commodity kind of experience, or it could be traumatic. It's very rare that experience is going to be a lovely experience. That you will advise, like suggest other people, like use this bank because they are great, they are empathetic, they help me, they put me before processes, they put me before what the industry thinks is right. So I think that is the key is there, and I don't think that the neobanks are like treating like there is no risk for the big banks like short term, but there is a huge risk when people will realize that, as you said, they have options, they can do the same things, and they can do things in a new way based on a new communication, a new tone of voice, being ourselves instead of being bankers or trying to complicate stuff when you can use your natural language to execute banking operation.
Yep.
Sorry, right?
You were saying something.
Yeah, no, I think one very important point is not about big banks or small banks. I think the important thing is about how the management is thinking about it. So like if you take Amazon, if you go and you're not happy with Amazon, you can write an email to Jeff Bezos and somebody will react to it and come back pretty quickly. I think we are in lending business, so we also know sometimes even if you want to empathize with the customer, we are not able to do it, because there are certain, underwriting standards and norms we have to follow. We can't help these customers. But having said that, how you convey that information, like what we have done is that we have put virtual CFO tools where, they can go and see why they didn't get the money, what was the reason, how they can improve their credit worthiness to, being eligible for that. I think that's an important piece. That's like showing empathy, but also making them aware about, things that, because we are not in a e-commerce business, that's what we say, like e-commerce business is a gratification business where you can swipe your credit card and you will get what you want. But having said that, I think how you customize that messaging, how you, and I think Angela made a very good point around your customer agents. So like we have customer agents and we actually measure them on how many 5-star Trustpilot reviews they get, actually. And that's important because for us, those Trustpilot reviews matter the most because, we are a totally digital lending shop. So, the first place that people check us out is on our online reviews, and they don't really, and most of the customers don't really talk about the cost of money or how much amount they got. What they really talk about is their experience with the agents. So like even in the digital world, I think that's very important that somebody will interact with some human beings, and people and hu- human beings like interacting with other human beings, whatever the way. It could be face to face, it could be digital. So your digital doesn't replace your human beings. What it should be doing is it should make them smarter, better, more empowered, because that's how they're gonna relay back. That's how the customers are gonna talk about. So most of the good genuine online reviews are one they actually talk about their experience with somebody at a company,
Yeah.
not just anything else. And I think that's a very important piece because what we tell our agents and what we tell our customers is that we'll not be able to lend everybody money, because if we are able to lend everybody money, then we will out of business, actually. uh, but but having said that, we are going to be very transparent, very upfront, very honest, with all of them why we were not able to lend them money. If there are things that we can help them in the interim, we'll help them. We will help them with, like, helping them to get better at their business, get more informed, and if there are other places that they can get money from, they can take it. The other thing I think which is very important that we are starting to see is that we recently did a PPP forgiveness platform, and we launched it with the ICP, and we actually made it free. We made it free for business owners, and we convinced a lot of large payroll companies to come and actually put their APIs into that, and also utility aggregators and all that, because we said that this is very important. We were not just doing it for sake of making money, because most of the business owners are very worried about how do they get forgiveness, because they're accruing interest right now and they want to get done with it before the end of the year. Most of the banks are saying wait, because we are not ready, so you wait. When we are ready, then come back. Most of them are spending more time in lobbying with Congress and US Senate to try to get automatic forgiveness up to $150,000. So while they are spending millions of dollars in doing that, they have no time or interest to actually think about the end customer. What are they thinking about it? And I think the challenge for most of the management for banks, whether they are small or big, I don't think that really matters, big banks or small banks. What really matters is that, are the senior leadership team themselves thinking digitally? Do they want to be digitally native? And I can tell you, most of the bank C-level guys, while I think in last 6 months their outlook has changed tremendously what it was earlier, but I don't think that they are still fully digitally native. And and I talk to a lot of C-level guys now at banks, and one question I ask them is, okay, you have all these great products. They say, yeah. I said, have you tried it yourself? Can you give a demo yourself of your product? And they will, like, they say, no, I can't, I don't know. And that I think is a very important thing. Companies like Apple or Amazon today, where they are, is because their leadership actually inside outside know what they're offering, how they're offering, what the issues and what the challenges are. And I think
Yeah.
until unless the C-level guys at banks, whether small or big, don't get involved themselves, don't dirty their their own hands, till that point of time, digitization will accelerate. There's no doubt, but I don't think so. Banks will be able to achieve all the power of digitization, and they will not be able to make customers really happy, because customers are not looking for product all the time. What they're also looking is for the ability that somebody is listening to them, somebody understands their problems, and somebody is at least trying to solve those problems, even if they're not able to solve it.
Yeah. No, that's a it all comes back to politics and leadership and kind of what is the how set up is that organization, going back to what Angela was saying, that you guys are this new digital entities, and you can be sexy, and you don't have to go by the same rules. Um, Rod, do you guys
There are,
seeing? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, let me add something because Roy
Yes.
touched a point that is very important to me. We have two let's call it opportunities there in the customer support team: management side and operator side, and also customer side. So three opportunities. Management side, actually they don't know what they are doing digitally wise because they've been paid too much. So I think we should cut this and until they prove that they know their products first. That this is something that is happening in a lot of banks all around the world, not only in banking. Second thing, operator side, is very difficult to motivate agents to do the extra mile because most of the time these people are there because they just need to work, but they are not fully engaged. And this is totally normal. I would do the same. So a little trick to make them more engaged is what we did with BuddyBank. All the other employees at all levels, C-level and down, they need to be agents. They need to dedicate one Sunday every week, one night every week maybe, or one to be an agent. And this is going to flip completely the feeling of the agents, that they will see that there are people that are working with them and not that they are working for people. This is a little trick that all the banks can do, but they're not doing it. Plus, imagine a C-level person talking with a customer, understanding what the customer wants for real, being on the street instead of being on an office with carpet and the plant and all this kind of things. So said that, there is another piece, a component that is crucial. Today banks don't know their customer. They know the checking account number and they know the credit score, but they don't know us. So there is another little trick that I'm happy to share with you today. You can take it or leave it, but we invented a little thing that we called love data. That is not small data or big data, but basically we are trying to get to know who our customers are, even at scale. And it is not only how much money they have. They could have $20 on their account or 200,000. It doesn't matter. We try to know who they are, what they like to do in the free time if they want to share with us. When is their anniversary? How we can help, if they have a dog or not. I live for my dog, Lola Maria, rescue dog in Tijuana. I live for her. If my bank, and BuddyBank doing this, and Bella will do this, if my bank, when I need them, will say, hey, Angelo, how is Lola? I will say, oh my God, this is huge. I feel that they are with me. And this is just a tag on a CRM because it's not science fiction. So I think that technology now today is enabling us, especially the conversational commerce piece, is enabling us to do whatever we want to do. So we don't have excuses that it's only up to the management of banking to transform this forever and to win the competition with others. This is what I think.
I mean, this is an excellent point, and I love love data. I mean, data love data, and kind of looking at that way, because in the end of the day, when we talk about anything in everyday life, we talk about our friends and we talk about our dogs and our family. It's all about personal, and it's about knowing the person and understanding what their needs are and where they are in their life journey, and not in a journey of, oh, I need to get a loan for my car. Oh, he needs a car because his kid is going to college and he's going to be left without a car. So yeah, that's a very interesting. You guys are, Rod, you're taking notes. You guys need a new API.
No, I think
Love API.
I think you're exactly right. And it's interesting, some of the things that you talk about, they echo in some of the most successful companies I've seen. I first met Matt Mullenweg just as he was getting WordPress going, and he was starting up Automatic, and he's famous for joining, everybody in the company joins the support. I don't know how many days a month they do, 2 or 3, but they all do it. CEO on down. It's a good way to know how things are going. It's a good way to be right at the front end and to realize what the priorities are, because if your customers are really upset about something, they'll leave. I think it is, though, it's also, you bring up a good point about really understanding what's motivating a customer. You don't want to steer them into the wrong thing either. One of the things that we've found in that end that I think would be useful to know is a really easy continuity thing. We've had some, we've launched products that help people to save money. They're just little. There are tons of these apps on in the various mobile app stores. It's a free app. We've pointed at them, but we've seen two things. One is huge uptake in the app and a much tighter engagement with us as a as somebody that, or somebody who's providing solutions in their lives, because they're hitting that app more than they were their banking app. But then also we've seen huge progress. People are making great progress with these apps. It's helped them. And because of that, we're starting to see a feedback loop now where we've shown people, well, we can't help you with the car loan at this point, and then 6 months or a year later, we are helping them with the car loan because they're in a different financial position. But it's what's personal about that is not is seeing the human and realizing that they have a full journey and that you can help them with the full journey, not just with this transaction of whether or not they can get this car loan, for example.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, the few things I'm getting here, guys, is I'm hearing that, it's about the structure and leadership from one side in the company. It's about having the right digital infrastructure, but it's really about strategy, Angelo, about what do you want to be as a bank and what are your core values, um, to help the customer to really go beyond the regular understanding of you being a bank, and again, having access to your cash when you need it. You really have to think and understand better what is happening with your users and customers in order to take it to the next level, to really differentiate yourself. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
Am I
you're
missing
right,
something?
but the I think here the key again is not that technology, but is challenging the rules and challenging
Yeah.
the regulation and challenging compliance piece. And also, if you look at these big corporations, all the CEOs, I was joking, but not really before. Like, if a person make like, I don't know, 20 million a year, and they're not really they're not entrepreneurs that they're trying to fight as much as they can. For this reason, I don't think it's healthy to have that kind of people leading the future of banking. I'm not saying that they need to hire me with a leather jacket. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that this should change, because they are not fighting for example, for retail, because retail is not a big pot of money for them. Retail is not something where you can make a lot of money. You can make more money with corporate and all the other stuff and investment banking. So I think it's always like being considered as a kind of channel that we are forced to keep it open. But so let's do the minimum thing that we can do, because we need to focus on our thing. But I deeply believe was the past way of thinking. So it's not belonging to the new reality. Is not the future anymore, where people need to be connected with all the businesses from their home, and they need help. Maybe in this case they need help for banks, and it's very difficult. And if now we try all together to pick the phone and call any banks all around the world, not in the US, it's not easy. It's not easy to get in contact with them. It's not easy at
No,
all.
no. It is actually the number that is hidden the most, even when you're on a mobile app or anything else.
Well, I
Those-
will say that it's also it's interesting from our side trying to be able to provide solutions that don't require people to actually deal with us. Um, people don't always, especially young people today, don't always want to actually visit a branch or visit even have a phone call. The interesting thing there is that we do have tricky issues with regulators in some countries. In Brazil, it's difficult for us to adhere to the regulations and not have you visit a branch. For instance, when you buy a new phone. So you've got a new phone, you need the banking app on the phone. That's great. That should be, you download it, you put in a little bit of information and you're ready to go. And instead, you actually have to visit a branch. You have to line up. You have to have the mask on. You have to talk to a teller. You have to go through. And so some of the things where we are trying to improve that and do it all digitally, we are being stifled by regulators in certain situations, and for good reason. They have good reason to do it, but coming up with cooperating with the regulators and the authorities to address those issues is critical.
Now, speaking of regulations and privacy and is privacy, you guys are obviously addressing it, Rod, in a very technical way and trying to change the whole industry with the new identification. But um, if I am Bella and I can understand better the customer and any other bank, do you think that more and more customers are gonna start sharing more data if there are banks that are looking for your well-being rather than just what extra fees I'm gonna collect?
My hope is that they share much less. I'll give you a very tangible example. In the UK, you can buy a lotto ticket online. If you do so today, you have to share your full identification information and your full address. The company that manages it for the lotto or manages it for the UK government is called Camelot. Camelot has to keep all of that private data. It's a huge risk. It's insane. What they need to know is, are you a UK resident and are you over 16? That's the law there. They only need to know those obfuscated facts. But part of our effort, our whole digital trust initiative, is creating circumstances where we can put in that obfuscation and just answer what people need to know. To the point of the car loan, can this person afford to pay it? Not every single bill they've ever paid in the past or all the details. Can we boil it right down to a very simple yes/no question and help protect their privacy? And by sharing less, we hope that if we do that in a way that's more efficient and useful for them, that then actually our relationship with them will be tighter.
Interesting. I mean, Rohit, you guys do a lot of lending, for small businesses and others. How are, and you also not only help companies deal with acquisition, but also management and servicing of those loans, correct? I mean,
Yes.
how
Yes.
do you guys have that full as a service, as a white label for the big companies? Do they have their own, standards that you have to apply depending if you're doing this for HSBC or somebody else?
Yeah. So in our lending business, what is Biz to Credit? There we have banks and non-banks where we do servicing on their behalf, and there we follow and adhere their standards. In our Biz2X business, we don't do servicing on the behalf of banks. There we give them the platform and the ability. So like if you go on the HSBC website today in US or on a Banco Popular website, you can go and apply for loans. You can get your underwriting decisions. You can upload your documents. You can get checklists. You can have all that thing, and earlier, if you're even walking into a branch, you could get an omni-channel experience. All that was running through platforms like us, actually. I think where we do a lot of servicing is where we create these, private label portfolios, for banks and non-banks, and that's where we handle all the servicing. And I think Rod made a very good point, because we have a lot of data. We have data at the time of underwriting. We have data on an ongoing basis from a monitoring aspect, and we have data from a servicing aspect. And I think COVID has even given us a lot more data because it has clearly shown the difference between haves and have nots, essential businesses versus non-essential business and all that. And I think data privacy is extremely important. There's just no doubt about it. At the same point of time, what we feel is that, it's also very important that, the data from a non-PII perspective should be shareable. Like, so now we work with a lot of banks and other institutions, over the last few months that, we have got a lot of their customer deposit data coming to us, obviously on a non-PII basis, and we are actually helping them to see that, which customers they can lend money, which customers business has gone up or gone down, where their electronic payments have actually increased as a percentage of their deposits. And I think that's a very important piece because, that data is extremely valuable, but not dangerous, because you don't have any PII information. And at the same point of time, it gives tremendous amount of insights, to us as well as to our banks, as well as to our non-bank funding partners that, what products we can build, what pricing we can do. Like yesterday, we were talking to a very large payment, processing company, which has operations in UK, US, and other countries. And we were actually exactly talking about the same things. They were saying we have all these merchants and some of them are struggling, some of them are really short of working capital. And to today, working capital has become very tight outside of PPP loans in US. So like they're saying, we are getting these calls and their problem is that we settle after 3 days. And 3 days is an eternity for a lot of these merchants to today. They want money the same day or next day. And they said, how we can actually, put them on platforms and do better risk assessment and risk management, that lending can happen, advances can be given, and also the ability to ongoing do the monitoring piece. So I think the big aspect of data is becoming, or I would say the biggest aspect of data, and we have been talking to regulators in US also, is that transactional data is becoming the most important data. So it used to be like, you need to know your customer. Now you need to know their transactions. I think transactional data is more important than even knowing the name, address, demographic, and credit score of a customer anymore. Because that's what's driving more of I would say, the commerce. That's driving the buying decisions. That should be driving the lending decisions. And that should be driving the risk-rated pricing. And that I think is becoming very important.
I agree with you to some degree, as long as the credit scores and everything are properly used. Because my lending company decided that I had not paid them one payment in 30 years or 25 years, was late for my house, and my score went from 840 to 740. And then I had to spend literally 3 hours over 3 months on calls to fix it, to get it back to 848. But it's like,
no, but that's what I'm saying, that transactional data is more important than anything else, because today everybody is credit scored, and then everybody takes a lazy approach of looking at the credit score and trying to lend you money on that. And we have seen during every financial crisis that actually credit score data is a backward looking data, and that never helps you to predict your losses. So I think transactional data. So let's say if this lender was looking at the transactional data and they were looking at the historical data or even the rest of the data, that okay, you missed this bill, but you were paying every other bill on time, you didn't have negative balances in your account, then you should not have got penalized, actually for that. I think that's what I'm exactly talking about. The fact that, that's what the digital world allows you to do that. But I think most of the lending institutions and traditional banks are still very far behind there, because digitization is not just creating an onboarding form. Digitization is not just creating a customer experience that is great. Customer experience will be great when you actually can digitize your backend. So today, Vasil, if you had a lending institution which could have understood or could have seen all the 360-degree picture, that would have been a better experience for you than just giving you a great digital onboarding form,
sure,
or an ability to e-sign. I think that's where a lot of institutions are missing the picture still, is that it's your digitization of your backend. So what we tell a lot of institutions is that your underwriters, when they walk out of the office now from their home, they're using an Apple phone, they're using, devices which has great experience. But when they are sitting on your own systems, they are still so antiquated. And, banks are, I think, more focused still on the front end, but very few are still trying to figure out a way that how they can automate and digitize and make a beautiful UI UX driven backend, because that I think is more important than even the front end piece.
So this is, I think, a good time. We have, I think, less than 10 minutes to kind of wrap this up. And I would love to hear you guys, each one of you, give me your 2 minutes of what do you think one, what is the future of of customer experience? Where do you guys we gonna go? What should viewers of this call today think about the future, what beyond everything that we talked about, or if you want to summarize
Yeah.
what we've talked
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, so I think in my view, the customer experience will become extremely critical, but it has to be even more omni-channel because you cannot predict how your customers are going to behave. Some will be extremely comfortable with digital, some will be comfortable with digital plus a human touch. Some will still want to come back and meet someone. But I think in any of these experiences, they will still want a very seamless digital experience. So they could just literally walk in and out from a digital world anytime they want to do. And one thing that we have seen is that, while I think Rod said rightly that most of the people want to do things on their own, which I totally agree, but they still want a human touch if they have some questions or issues, and they don't want to grapple with too many IVRs and too many numbers or too many extensions. Because when they need something and they want to talk to someone, it should be a one-click experience for them. Also, as much as one-click experience when they are in the digital world. So I think that
Yeah.
amalgamation of digital, non-digital is the most critical customer experience that every organization will have to build now.
I think you're right. I think that the consumer is ever more important. They're demanding more. They have more options. And if companies are going to keep them as customers, they have to think about them as human beings that want to have a pleasant and happy experience. It really all comes down to that. Otherwise, the great advantage of a bank, your huge balance sheet, is going to disappear with those consumers as they march off to a place that treats them more kindly, and more holistically and more personally. And so to keep them is to leave them in control and to treat them with dignity. To do that, you have to have the tools for it. That's why our thing focuses on, for instance, giving you control over your privacy. But that's just an expression of the higher goal. Um,
Sure.
and I think Angelo's onto something definitely with something that is really focused on empathy. I think it's key.
Angelo.
Yeah, I think that we are exactly trying to do what we're describing in this call, and we're trying to inject empathy into an industry that is lacking of it.
Lost
So
it.
no, I think, yeah, maybe lost it is the right word. Actually, in Italy we have this very old bank called Monte dei Paschi di Siena. I think it's like 400 years old bank, something like this. But what I see that banks are as doing they are doing this. We are doing the same thing since like the beginning of the time. So we never really changed the system, and now it's time to do it. And we have, as I said before, all the tools to do this. And it's only more a cultural thing for the top management of big banks and small banks to take a little bit more risk to help a customer, and maybe to start thinking how we can build added value services on top of banking that are not banking related. This could be another way of having more engagement on the banking side, and but it's a huge leap. So I'm not.
I mean, do you call this a risk or is this an investment? I mean, they're always the two kind of go together, but to me, it's just going back to the old times of again being personal and being really well, you know, connected and understanding who your customers are.
The most of the banks, especially the big ones, are risk averse in their DNA. So everything that can include a certain amount of risk, if it's not needed 100%, they try to postpone it or do not do it. So even technically, if we want to talk about IT for a second, in big banks, it's very difficult to implement new projects for this reason, because the infrastructure is
Impossible.
like, exactly, is almost impossible.
Yeah.
So I think is a cultural thing. It's not a technology thing.
It's great. Guys, it's been really a pleasure to have you today on and to join me and to listen to your different way of looking at the same problem from three different ways, technology and privacy and empathy. In the end of the day, we are, this is my new bank branch, right? I am sitting with it, and that's my teller machine, and I can, deposit money and change money. But when I need it, if this is designed well and understands me better with the right data, with the right privacy and security, we'll all have better experiences. And I love what you guys are all doing and changing each one of you the world little by little. I wish you all the best. And Angelo, I will be one of your first customers. I'm ready and ripe to switch over. And hopefully, Rod, we can use your, authentication, to
Yeah.
to to to
Well,
have better
it's open
privacy.
source and free. Any institution can use it. Anyone. It's based
Awesome.
on OpenID. So
Awesome.
thank you very much
Rod,
for the opportunity.